influences?
In general?
In music.
In music? In ukulele?
In both ukulele and you guys play and play the cello, so you know, maybe talk about.
Yeah, well.
What got you both into? What inspired you to play the ukulele? What inspired you to play the cello? I guess we'll start there.
Sure, we can start there. I started playing because my teachers in elementary school taught me how to. I mean, it was something that everybody in my school learned how to do. So that's what got me started. This was when I was 8 years old, just in school, in a suburb of Vancouver, British Columbia, in Canada. So, I mean, for me, it was really the teachers that got me going. I didn't know what ukulele was. I didn't know anything about it. But because everybody in the school played, it was it wasn't cool or uncool. It was just a thing that everybody did. So that's what got me going. But I think what kept me going, because those are two very different things.
Yeah.
What gets you going and what keeps you going. What kept me going, I think in part it was the friends I was making. I think for a pretty introverted, shy, young 8-year-old, I started to make friends with music, and that's something I've done my whole life. Met people through music and created friendships and maintained friendships through music. So it was the start of that really happening for me. That was a real motivator. And also I felt that there were so many opportunities with the ukulele, so much music that hadn't been played on the ukulele yet. So from a creative point of view, it just showed so many open doors, you know, that kept me going in it too. Otherwise I would have quit a long time ago if I didn't have those two things that were actually keeping me going. Yeah.
Yeah, it's maybe not super glamorous, but my parents, my mom in particular, was really set on all 4 of us kids having music lessons because she never did it. So this was something that she wanted to offer her children. And when it came time to choose an instrument, she just asked, "So do you want to play cello?" And I didn't even know what it was. And so I said, "Sure, like I'll try it out." And it's been amazing, actually. It's an instrument that's really hard to start. And so I found it to be quite a struggle at the beginning. But the more I get to know it, the more, speaking of making friends with music, I've made friends with the instrument. And the longer I play it, the more I love it. And yeah, so it's kind of an unusual beginning, but it's turned into a great romance.
Well, now you mentioned romance.
Yeah, speaking of.
How did you guys meet?
We met in music school. So we were both, although we weren't in exactly the same year, everyone had to be part of the orchestra. And so, well, it was kind of a funny story in a way, because I was in the cello section, and in the first year, James was in the first violin, so we were across. And the next year, he was in the second violin, and then the next year, he was in the viola, so he was gradually making his way closer to the cello. I think that was probably completely coincidental, but I was kind of like, "Ooh, who's that over there?"
Getting closer every year.
Yeah. And so we met, and in fact, didn't know that James was a ukulele player, actually, when we first met. So that was kind of a fun little surprise after when we got to know each other a little bit. Yeah, surprise, you! What? What is that?
Welcome to the rest of your life.
Nice. And then what sort of inspires you now musically? Because you guys collaborate. What inspires you?
Well, Matilda, the musical, which we just saw.
Right now?
Yeah, we just saw that about, this afternoon. So that kind of thing is inspiring. It's inspiring when any composer or writer or performer just does something that, even after all this time of loving music and listening to music and watching music being performed, when you see something that is still surprising and gives you that feeling that you first had when you were listening to music, that's just totally inspiring. I'm really inspired by especially with the musicals where they have longer forms. You know, where when we play a concert, I sometimes get tired of the rhythm of the concert where it's like you play a song, it's 3 minutes, and they clap. Then you play another song, it's 3 minutes, and they clap. Play, clap, play, clap. And it's sort of back and forth in sort of 3 minute intervals.
Yeah.
It does get a little bit predictable after a while. And I really admire composers and lyricists who can draw this much longer arc. And of course, musical is such a great example of that. So today I was really taking notes, really inspired by those long narratives that they can weave just through song and stage. And it reminds me of Into the Woods, which I saw just recently, the movie of the musical. Same thing. The first 15 minutes are one song. You know, it's really inspiring.
And what's his own musicals from you guys?
Who knows? But you know,
What are you talking about?
I'm not talking about writing a musical, but I am talking about trying to bring some of that larger form thinking into writing popular songs. And you know how that's done, I don't know. Maybe song cycles where they're sort of collections of related songs. Or, you know, I don't know exactly, but it's something that I'm thinking a lot about these days.
Well, and there, in the fiddle music tradition, there's a tradition of sets of tunes, and I think both being classically trained, we're of that mindset of multiple movement works, and so yeah, it seems like a natural
thing
thing.
to transition toward.
Yeah, I don't know.
And of course,
like
I mean,
very budding idea.
yeah, it's just really in its infancy. But I mean, an album is a collection of songs. You can think of an album as a longer form in popular music.
Yeah,
and I think there's a reason why the album just won't die. You know, even now, years after the MP3 and after iTunes, and we don't really shuffle play. We don't need the album anymore, but it's not dying. And I wonder why. And I think that's because it's the longer story.
It's like a collection that's...
In some way, we sort of need that to organize I think there's still a lot to be done in that score before we just completely do away with all that and just have singles.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen as soon as people think it is. So
No.
I'm looking ahead to some projects and looking at how we can use those longer structures. I'm excited about that. Yeah, me too.
I suppose as a last question, because I'm just aware that we're trying to set up here. Hot tips for new players. Maybe 3 hot tips that you would give for new players. Both of you actually, and maybe thinking about the vocals as well as your instruments.
For new players, I'll go first.
Please.
For the ukulele, I would say learn. You know, it would be easy to say learn the whole fretboard. You know, you hear people say that if you open the Roy Smeck ukulele method from the early 1900s, his first lesson is a picture of the entire ukulele fretboard with all the note names written in, and it's kind of like learn this and then go on. And you know, I've always thought that was kind of a crazy way of beginning. I wouldn't say learn the whole ukulele fretboard, but I would say as soon as you're able, start to play in this sort of middle zone of the fretboard, just south of the open strings, but not so far up that you're sort of pulling a muscle or anything. Right here in the middle part of the fretboard, as soon as you're able, start moving your chords into that area, because that really is the sweetest area to play in.
Nice.
What do you think? That was one tip. Oh, you want me to keep going? Singing? Singing is real simple. Get some lessons. I mean, I wish I had had some lessons way early on. You know, some proper lessons.
Yeah, no.
And almost everybody who waits too long on the singing will tell you the same thing. You know,
And you can do damage if you don't.
That's true.
Technically,
You know, to people's souls as well. You know,
Wow.
they hear something. Oh, please stop. You know, but it doesn't take much to make a big change in your vocal tone, and I just wish I had tried that a lot sooner. Third tip?
Third tip from you, James, and
Okay.
there's 3 tips.
I would say third tip that relates to both
Uh-huh.
singing and playing is try to find other people to play with.
Good tip.
Trying to be a little bit sociable with your playing, and this is coming from a very introverted person who loves to nothing more than to just be in the studio on his own. So I mean, do as I say, not as I do. But go and find people to play with, because you will learn so much more. It's sort of it just multiplies exponentially the amount of learning that will happen if you have to coordinate with other people, and other people are really a mirror for your own sound.
Yeah.
You can fool yourself so easily sitting in your bedroom thinking that you're actually pretty hot player, but as soon as you get out there and have to coordinate with other people,
Yeah,
you learn a lot about yourself.
Definitely.
So that's my third tip.
Great tip.
And sort of on that, Jag, I would suggest, obviously, to play with other instruments, not just other ukuleles.
Sure.
I think a lot of the clubs that we see are ukulele only, sometimes with a bass, but it's always nice to have that musical diversity. And you know, in as much as you can learn from other uke players, you can learn from other instruments, and even starting to emulate the different sounds a bow might make, or that a trumpet might make, or yeah, it just helps you to inform and to give a context for the uke. So that would be tip number 1.
Yeah.
Tip number 2, I would say memorize what you play.
Yeah.
This is something, again, coming from classical music and the score,
Yeah.
that, yeah, I was a little late to appreciate the value of memorization. But what happened, there's some magical thing that happens when you internalize what you're playing, you take ownership and you can think ahead in it, you're not, you can really connect with your audience, there's nothing in between you. So yeah, I would say that's tip number 2. And tip number 3 is to write your own music. I
Great.
think that's, again, something that just totally blew my musical world wide open, was when I started to write instrumentals, and then I got into songwriting as well. And I think both of those areas of exploration have been really fruitful, and a way to get to know your instrument and invent new strums. Like James has done a lot of inventing, just because you think, okay, I want to get that sound, now how do I do that?
Yeah.
And so it can help you to chart that new territory, plus then you have this responsibility, this is your creation, and automatically you'll have an authenticity about that. So yeah, that's what I'd say.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you both.
You're
Okay.
welcome.